do you negotiate the best compromises going forward? We're all kind of joking earlier about the whole thing with the legislature and Congress right now, that people don't want to work together. And I think one of the great things about this board, it's really a nonpartisan board, so you can really go out and work with other states and really try and come up with solutions for the long term. I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we have. But you know, we do things right, other states do things right. How can we do best practices to be able to make those things work? It's always a challenge. Everybody's very parochial in terms of what they want to do. They want to protect their own assets. I get that. But the long-term health of the West is so important that if we just sit there and Colorado doesn't want to work with Arizona and California, you know, plays big brother and doesn't want to work with anybody, long-term effects, it doesn't work. So it's a matter of getting out there and trying to figure out the best practices you can do and work out the best compromises for everybody. So, not sure which way we're going.
All right, Ben, let's go this way.
Great. So I won't assume to say what Grady does for a living, but a lot of the times I describe what I do for a living when somebody says, what is a land use attorney? I say I'm a consensus builder. I've never sued a person in my life, and I'm an attorney, and I kind of like them. I don't bring conflict, I bring consensus, and whether that's through neighborhoods or cities, I'm used to a three-party, four-party agreement type situation that can be very heated. That being said, you know, on like February 2nd, I started my campaign. I started diving into the research, and I was a bit disappointed to know that I wasn't, when elected, going to be in this cool triangular conference table with Nevada, Arizona, California, and we'd all be, you know, negotiating water. Although that is essentially what's occurring. Although ADWR is probably more at that table than specific members of the board. But I think what is successful is not focusing on punishments as much as conservation efforts, as much as cuts to water for each state and the impact that has on each state. But if you know about what CAP is doing right now with the Protect Lake Mead campaign, what I like about that is the psychology of it, which is you take the 3 states and you focus on the end goal, which is protecting Lake Mead, protecting Colorado River, and these cuts, whether they be early cuts that California agrees to or whatever it may be, our end goal is to protect the system. And if we focus on that, we seem less paranoid. I mean, Arizona certainly has the most junior water rights on the river. We always have. It seems like I've heard jokes that the New York Times and other people have just started to figure this out and report it as some kind of crisis, but it's been that way for years and years and years. But the only thing I'll push back on the paranoid is I think that junior right holder position is why we became such masters of water management. We knew we were in the position to have to be the best water managers. So I push back a little bit because I think the paranoia is more preparation, but I do think that the goal is to focus on the end game, protecting the system, and less on the impacts of each state.
Let's skip over to Jim this time. We'll work our way to the outside. Jim.
Sure. One thing I was going to start with, and Ben just brought it up, but it deserves to be reiterated. Maybe the audience all knows this, but Arizona holding the junior right has a major impact on our negotiating strategy. Now, having said that, we share this basin. We share it with 7 states and we share it with Mexico. We need to respect that. We need to think of how we can share it better. The conflicts are only going to grow over time. And you know, one of the main things I learned about dealing with conflict in my years at the state agency, where I'd occasionally declare an area of safe yield and shut down development, or we would behind the scenes agree that nothing was going to develop until they fixed their water, and you may never have heard about it because we did it behind the scenes. Relationships matter. Relationships are critical. Politics, when it works, is about relationships. So as much as we are at the table and have a different position than our other 7 basin states in Mexico, we need to build the personal relationships and the trust that allow us to work together. There is some commonality between water policy at this level and sort of military deference. You know, as much as the illogic of mutually assured destruction, that's kind of how we work together as states on the basin. I mean, while the states are busy building legal funds to fight each other in court, they all know the last thing we want is the Supreme Court resolving our issues, or Congress these days resolving our issues. And so what you wind up doing is there are many issues you agree to disagree on that are fundamental legal disagreements about how the law of the river works that we aren't going to work out. But what you try to find is the compromise that begrudgingly everybody can live with, so that we will not go to the sort of the nuclear bomb solutions on the river. And so really that's what we need to do. We need to build the relationships, we need to build the trust, We need to understand each other's concerns and each other's issues while vigorously making sure they understand ours. And this is a system that's over-allocated. This is a system that I believe the amount of water is going down, not up. The demands are going up, not down. So, and there is no new water to allocate. So we're gonna have to work this out.
Yes, and body language works better with some than with others. Okay, back this way, Frank.
Well, I think the reality is in the past, there was a lot of fighting, and you have to remember that in 1922, Arizona got its water by winning a Supreme Court case in which Arizona sued California, and we won big, and that's how we started. But I think the reality is, just as Ben has talked and Jim has talked, we need to work more and more with the other states, and I think that's happening. And so today, the CAP, or the CAWCD, as you please, is a major convener and partner with the lower basin states. We're in frequent conversations with Nevada, California, and Mexico. Amazingly, Mexico, who has no legal reason to concede anything, has been very collaborative and has given up some of their water to help keep water in Lake Mead. And part of the reasons that's happened is that the CAP and Nevada in particular have reached out to Mexico and made them part of the team. I agree with Ben and everyone else that spoke. We need to do a lot more of this in the future. And I think we're making great progress, that the whole combative tone of working with the other states is going away very quickly, and that there's a collaborative situation that's being developed every day. We need to do more, but we also got to keep one eye on our wallet, because there's an awfully big elephant to the west who would like to find a way to walk away with a little of it.
Alex, interstate
I'm next.
issues.
So I agree that if you look at the whole history of water development in this region, Arizona and California in particular have been fighting for a long time, and I think California was unreasonable, but maybe it's Arizona has been. But if you look at the short-term, more recent history, you can find a lot of examples of where we're working together. And one example I think is in the Colorado River Delta area. That was kind of a model of Arizona and California and Mexico working together to try and find a solution to some of the issues down there in the Delta. And even if they may have been short-term solutions, they're a model for the future. And I think it shows that for the first time, as Frank said, we're working with Mexico. Mexico's now storing water in Lake Mead. And this relationship can be a model for the future. I think, we have California has a lot of coastline, and so does Mexico. There's a potential there for desalination. It's very expensive at this point. It takes a long time to get a facility permitted. So it's not an immediate solution, but as that technology gets better, we could, if we have a good working relationship with California and Mexico, we could come up with water exchanges and that kind of thing. Do I have an extra minute? I guess I just
you have an
wanted
extra 18 seconds.
Personally, I also worked on the general stream adjudications on the Indian water rights settlements, and the adjudication is always, everyone always talks about how long it has taken and how frustrating it is, but we've made incredible progress on these water rights settlements, and I think that's a great model for working together.
Okay, Ben, I'm going to go to you first this time.
I got.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh
Lori,
my
I forgot to
gosh,
bounce
Brady.
back. Jeez.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Call me on that if I do that again.
I
Anyway,
will.
please. Good move.
Thank you, Grady. What's the question again?
Oh, your time's up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Interstate cooperation.
Interstate. The tough thing with this is that California owns, they have the cards. If I was playing poker, they have the cards, they have the controlling interest. But the issue for us is stay at the table and communicate. And that's where I believe collaboration, working with them, staying with them, talking, because once you leave the table and you get mad and you walk away, you have trouble. So to me, it's very important to stay with them, communicate with them, and talk with them. I was up at up in Vegas, the Colorado Water Users Association back, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, and we came out, and Arizona's done a great job. And Central Arizona Project has done a great job. They came out with a memorandum of understanding, and it was very good. I thought it was a great win-win for everybody, and California was participating. I believe right now we're probably the ones that are more taking the lion's share of leaving water in there, but I do believe through my management skills, working in the golf business, working with the golf community industry, that it's important that we stay at the table, keep communicating with them, and try to come to a compromise down the road. Because it's always better to, be nice about stuff instead of saying, this is how I want it. So I believe it's important to stay at the table.
So Ben, I'm going to give you the next question first. When do you plan on releasing your tax returns? No, the serious.
The audit's not finished.
Yeah, the serious question is, if you're elected to this board, we've said the name Central Arizona Water Conservation District a bunch of times, but you also wind up being a board member of what is called the Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District. Was that a good idea or a bad idea?
I will say it was a good idea. I've had the opportunity during my campaign to meet with some representatives of both sides of this argument, which I really appreciated. In essence, we were going through a time in our history not too long ago where we were pumping out groundwater and not replacing it. And as you know, this can lead to incredible, not only deficit of a literal non-renewable resource, but it can lead to subsidence. It can lead to incredible change of land that can't be fixed, can't be corrected. When we started looking at how we would replace groundwater, especially for specific customers, and the creation of the district that was created by the legislature, I think it was a very good decision. I also think it was a very good economic decision for our state. It allowed us to control and look at whether it be a municipality's use or a landowner or a subdivision's use of water, and actually make sure that they did have the 100 years assured water supply. The counter argument is that it invites or even encourages sprawl. And while I see that as something we need to keep an eye on as we look at policies and as our economy does come back and we have the ability to reach a little bit more out, I see more infill development right now than I do the master plan communities west of the West. But as we do look at this, we do need to look at if we have a good policy in place, if it needs to be tweaked. But overall, I do think it was a good thing